Hi, I'm Bruno Aziza, and today I'm sitting down with Martin Hall from Karmasphere. Martin, thank you very much for your time.
Nice to meet you, Bruno.
We've got lots to talk about today. You are a big data expert. Your thoughts and your work have been reused in GigaOM. And in fact, Karmasphere is one of the 12 Hadoop companies to watch in 2012, according to InformationWeek. So take us through this journey here. What is Karmasphere?
Well, Karmasphere is a software company. We're purely focused on big data and Hadoop in particular. And it's interesting, people are starting to understand that there are sort of different companies and different layers of big data stack they need to think about as they build big data solutions. So where we fit and what we do is we're a big data analytics company. We focus on making it easy for data professionals, whether they're developers, data analysts, business analysts, to take existing skills and existing familiarity with certain paradigms of working with data systems and come across to Hadoop and get easy access to the data in Hadoop and easily be able to extract the insights that are contained in that information.
So you said two things here. The first one, and is a word that lots of our CIOs in the audience here, is Hadoop and big data, and the second trend is analytics, and sometimes these two things are not exactly related. Do you want to help us through what problem did you first identify when you started Karmasphere?
Yes. A lot of people sort of look at Hadoop as sort of one homogeneous thing.
Yeah.
It's not, and a Hadoop solution is not a homogeneous thing. Hadoop as an open source based set of technologies is really about creating a sort of powerful parallel processing infrastructure that can also host a vast amount of raw data. But that infrastructure isn't worth anything if you can't do anything with it, if you can't analyze the data that's sitting in it. So you can think of Hadoop as a sort of powerful engine that runs on commodity service that might be on-premise or in a cloud environment. But then the people in an enterprise organization who need to do something with that data, extract the insights, have a set of skills. They might be Java programmers. 250,000 organizations in the United States alone employ people with SQL skills sitting in their data warehouse teams, in their BI teams, as you understand. And you've got to give those people with a set of skills the ability to work with this Hadoop infrastructure. So the second layer that's critical really in a Hadoop and big data solution is software that allows those data professionals to take existing skills and use them to mine, explore, and generate business valuable insights that they can operationalize within the organization. So you've got infrastructure, you've got analytics and sort of a new kind of BI, and then services are really the sort of third key part of this. Every organization that we see needs services, they need training, they need help in understanding how they build solutions.
So you're talking about two very specific trends here. The first one is the ability to collect data and compile data across multiple sources, being able to distribute computing, and then being able to analyze it to take action. You've talked about a large amount of organizations. I would say any organization that I know probably has this problem today. They're sitting on a lot of data that they're probably not using properly. Give us some examples of some of your customers and the type of value that they get out of the methodology you just took us through here.
Well, sort of one thing to talk about first is I think a lot of people have been in this space for 2 to 3 years as we have. They look at this sort of term big data, and it's something of a misnomer. Because often people think, well, big data, only big companies have big data, right? Well, that's not true. A lot of small companies, a lot of startups are generating huge volumes of data.
I'm generating a lot of data.
You are. Individuals are, right. If you're on Facebook or you're taking pictures, I'm a photographer. So I look at the volume of data that I'm creating and the kinds of technology that people are now looking to bring to market to analyze video, to analyze photographs, to identify individuals within those photographs. That's the sort of consumer application, if you like, of sort of big data technologies. On the business side, you're right. I mean, just about every single company, we're working across multiple vertical markets, across multiple sort of functional organizations in different vertical markets where people have issues and opportunities that have to do with big data. But you asked me, what kinds of companies, are doing things. What we're really seeing is that the retail organizations, whether they're brick and mortar or online organizations recognize that that as much as they can gain information about customers, that has value for them, about their customers' activity. And not just their customers' activity on a website, but their customers' activity in social media environments. That's generating data that, if they can analyze it, has meaning and allows them to construct, a better view of who their customer is, what their customer's doing, where they're doing it, what they're saying about a product, what they're saying about a brand.
Yep.
So social media and web analytics, is sort of exploding beyond the sort of first version of web analytics into sort of a, hey, we can provide this complete view of a customer that we could never do before because the technology wasn't there. The data was, but the technology to merge that structured and unstructured data and extract that value wasn't there.
And so you're referring to the customer 360 term we tend to use.
Yes.
And here we have the complexity now because the data is available. It might be on social sphere, it might be on Facebook, on Twitter, whatever. And you have the complexity as an organization to get this data all into one place so you can analyze it. Now, when I'm listening to the description of the problem, it sounds like it's a very complicated one to go out and solve and probably requires lots of different tools, lots of software, and maybe lots of people. What's your view on the space? Is it as complicated as most people make it sound?
It's got a lot easier. I mean, first of all, we need to give credit and continue to give credit to the Apache Foundation for the sort of fantastic work that open source set of communities have done and continue to do to create, a really sort of complex but extremely powerful engine. Right?
Yep.
But this ecosystem now is not just about sort of the open source developers, it's about a whole set of companies that are making it easier to consume that data and extract insights that have business relevance that they can act on.
So tell me a little bit about maybe your approach to other vendors such as Microsoft. Typically, if I talked to you 3 years ago and I told you, well, open source plus commercial software from Microsoft or a commercial approach, what would you have said? And what has changed since then?
Well, so it's fascinating to see Microsoft, come into this marketplace and make the announcement that they did at the end of last year about a commitment to Hadoop. And many people have their opinions about Microsoft, and a set of people have their opinions about Microsoft and open source.
Yeah.
I have been nothing but impressed by the way that Microsoft, is embracing open source, and instead of coming in and saying, hey, we're the new big elephant in town and things are going to be done our way on Windows. The sort of collaboration, because really what's key, I mean, we hear this word collaboration and sharing everywhere, but sort of, as I sort of reflect on my career and sort of what's happening, this is a very collaborative environment. And if you don't get that and you don't embrace it, either as a startup like us or a big company like Microsoft, you won't win in this space. So you have to come into this space and understand that you have to work with the open source community, respect and contribute back to that. Microsoft looks like it's doing that. That's fantastic, right? You have to acknowledge that there's an ecosystem and the solutions aren't built just on one vendor's products. And so if you can address those things, and I see Microsoft doing that, then this is all a huge win, because Windows is in the enterprise, right? It's not just Linux servers out there, it's Windows servers. And there are cloud environments like Azure, that we think are really important. We're seeing very, very interesting sort of trends in terms of the kinds of companies that are adopting and the velocity at which they can adopt Hadoop on-premise compared with what's happening with the cloud. I think a lot of people still don't recognize that the cloud is this sort of high-velocity, high-trajectory environment that means that even if you don't go into production on-premise, you can do your POCs, your trials, you can get that sort of early taste of this new technology on the cloud without having to worry about, well, how many machines am I going to buy, and how long is it going to take my IT department to buy, that first rack of computers? Now, what distribution am I going to put on there, and what operating system am I going to run on there? You don't have to get into any of that. If you start on the cloud, you can get going by inserting your credit card, getting your account credentials, and boom.
So, Martin, a lot of organizations have already invested in BI, both from their employees as well as software. Do they throw that away today? They start from scratch, or how do they transition to this big data trend?
Well, almost without exception, we're seeing that Hadoop is additive. Surveys have indicated that. Customers tell us that. It's about putting Hadoop in addition to what you've got with your existing BI and data management layer. But the key thing I think a lot of people don't yet recognize is that it's not about taking sort of data from Hadoop, sort of downsizing it and pushing it into your BI stack. You got to look at getting an initial set of people from your BI and analytics teams onto Hadoop directly, get those skills that they've got unlocked on top of Hadoop through software like ours, and allow them to extract those insights on the totality of the data rather than losing them by sampling it and pushing it into the BI stack. And in fact, what we're seeing with organizations now, there's a couple of trends we're seeing. A lot of large organizations are setting up sort of big data practices. They're having big data summits. They're bringing vendors in. They're looking sort of cross-functionally at how can we centralize this stuff. And from a functional point of view, we're now seeing companies starting to make a move that says, hey, we're going to reorganize. We're going to start a big data group, and we're going to bring our BI team in underneath that big data group.
If we want to give our audience something very tangible and specific to do next, I know they can go to your site and download the white paper, and that's at karmasphere.com. There's also software they should download, or what should they do next?
Yeah, I mean, what we're really trying to do is sort of play two roles here. There's a lot of education. A lot of people are scratching their heads and saying, you know, what is this thing called Hadoop, and what kinds of problems can I solve, and what does it mean to my existing architecture? Is it sweeping it all away? No, it's not. What it turns out is that in almost every customer we talk to, this is a complementary set of technology that enterprises that are already embracing and going into production are extracting value from, adjacent to their traditional sort of BI and data management stacks. So what we're trying to do with what's available from karmasphere.com is say, you know, we're trying to help with educational materials, reference architectures for the ecosystem. That's been very popular, both in sort of media organizations and companies that are approaching us and that we're working with as they've sort of legitimized and explained Hadoop within the organization. We also make free software available. So, you know, this is an open source environment.
So it's fairly easy to get started with.
Come download this stuff. You're a developer, you're a data analyst, you understand a little bit of SQL, you want to get started, you can get software from us, you can run it up in the cloud, you can be going in 10 minutes with this stuff.
Well, that's what they should do next. Martin, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Bruno.
I hope everybody's going to go to karmasphere.com. Until next time, I'm Bruno Ziza.